The next part of this chapter is implantation and placenta. Now, what is implantation? Implantation is the attachment of the blastocyst to the uterine wall, which takes place 7 days after fertilization. If you recall, the blastocyst, when it reaches the uterus, is surrounded by zona pellucida, and that zona pellucida prevents it from sticking to the fallopian tube and to the uterus. Once the zona pellucida degenerates, that is called as hatching, then the blastocyst is ready to get implanted into the uterine endometrium. So what is the first step in implantation? That is, the blastocyst comes in contact with the endometrium. In which region? In the region of the embryonal knob or the inner cell mass, and gets attached to it, that is, adheres to it. Then the blastocyst, it receives nutrition from the secretory glands of the endometrium. So the trophoblast starts dividing, differentiating into two layers. The outer layer, that is called as syncytial trophoblast. Syncytial meaning that will be multinucleated, just a mass of cytoplasm, and that is the cell walls between the cells, they have degenerated. So these are what we say as non-distinct cell boundaries. They don't have any cell boundaries between, just a mass of cytoplasm with many nuclei in it. So that is the outer layer, that is syncytial trophoblast. And the inner layer of the trophoblast has well-defined cells, so this is called as cytotrophoblast. Since the outer layer, that is syncytial trophoblast, is just without cellular boundaries, just a mass of cytoplasm with nuclei in it, that secretes lytic enzymes, and that lytic enzymes, that proteolytic enzymes, is going to cause breakdown of the endometrial lining and the blood vessels of the endometrium. And this trophoblast will absorb nourishment, and this outer layer, that is syncytial trophoblast, will divide and form villi, which extends into the endometrium. So because of these lytic enzymes, they have created a pit in the endometrium, and as a result the endometrium is going to surround the blastocyst, and ultimately the blastocyst will sink into the pit formed in the endometrium and will get buried into it. So this is how it gets implanted into the uterine endometrium. So if you get this question, how implantation occurs, till here you have to write it down. It's a 2 marks question. Then once it gets embedded, the blastocyst will form villi around it, which we refer to as the chorionic villi, and obtain nourishment from the uterine endometrium. At the same time, under the influence of the high levels of LH, there are changes in the endometrium also. So what changes? The cells are going to increase in size. They will become filled with nutrients, like you have lipids and glycogen, and they are going to form the uterine part of the placenta, that is called as decidua. What is the function of the trophoblast? As we said in our previous video, that they don't form the embryo proper. So what they form, what we refer to as extra embryonic membranes, and one of the extra embryonic membrane is the chorion, and that chorion will form the fetal part of the placenta. And the chorionic cells, they secrete HCG, and HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. And this HCG, as I said previously also, is the pregnancy hormone, and if a female has to check if she is pregnant or not, this is the hormone levels that will be checked in the urine or the blood sample. Now, what is the function of this HCG? This HCG is going to bind to the luteinizing receptors on the cells of corpus luteum. As a result, corpus luteum will not degenerate, and thus HCG is going to maintain corpus luteum and stimulate the corpus luteum to secrete progesterone. So for the first 3 months, corpus luteum is going to secrete progesterone, and as you recall, progesterone is very important because it has to be there for the entire 9 months of the gestation period. Therefore, it is referred to as a pregnancy hormone, and because it maintains the endometrium, and then later on the secretion of progesterone will be from the placenta. So as we said that the progesterone maintains the endometrium and prevents it from breakdown. Since progesterone will maintain the endometrium throughout the 9 months of the gestation period, therefore there will be no breakdown of the endometrium during the 9 months, meaning that during the entire 9 months of the gestation period, the female will not have a menstrual, there will be no menstruation. And progesterone will also, high levels of progesterone will also increase the mucus in the cervix. It will become thickened, and that is going to form a protective plug during pregnancy. So this is a diagram of implantation. So this is what we have is the blastocyst, outer layer the trophoblast, fluid filled cavity the blastocele, and these are the inner cell mass. So after shedding of the zona pellucida or hatching of the blastocyst, the blastocyst will come and lie against the uterine endometrium. So this is the uterine epithelium. The inner cell mass will be facing the uterine endometrium. So this is how it will be placed for proper implantation. Sometimes it happens it doesn't get properly implanted, so it will be shed out and there will be no further implantation and no further pregnancy in that female. So that is going to be aborted like that. The next step will be, now we have the trophoblast, as we said, will differentiate into layers. So you have the outer non-cellular layer that we called as syncytial trophoblast. So they are going to form finger-like projections, that is the villi, and they are going to enter into the uterine endometrium. And other layers which have cellular boundaries with distinct cells is the cytotrophoblast. So this is the cytotrophoblast surrounding the blastocele cavity. Meanwhile, another change occurs in the inner cell mass. It's a round globular shape initially. It becomes flattened into a disc-like structure. So this is referred to as the embryonic disc. And it gets differentiated into 2 layers. So outer layer towards this trophoblast, towards the endometrium, there are large columnar cells which you see here, and that is referred to as the epiblast. Below this are small cubical cells that is called as hypoblast. Then a cavity will appear between the trophoblast, that is the cytotrophoblast, and the epiblast. So this is the epiblast, this is the cytotrophoblast. A cavity will appear, and this cavity is called as amniotic cavity, and below this will be the hypoblast. So what is it forming? A bilaminar embryonic disc. Bilaminar because it has 2 layers. Inner will be the columnar epiblast, outer will be the cuboidal hypoblast. And from this, ultimately from the epiblast, we will have formation of the 3 primary germ layers. So ultimately the whole embryo will be formed from the cells of the epiblast, and once they get differentiated into a fetus, it will be attached to the uterine endometrium by a cord-like structure which we say as the umbilical cord. And the hypoblast, later we are going to do in the gastrulation, will be lining this this blastocele enclosing a cavity that we call as the yolk sac. Now coming to the next topic of this video will be placenta. So after implantation, what we'll find, finger-like projections will appear on the trophoblast, what we refer to as the chorionic villi, and they will be surrounded by the uterine tissue and the maternal blood sinuses, because the arteries, blood vessels there's a breakdown of the blood vessels, and these chorionic villi are literally bathing, literally floating in the mother's blood, from which they derive their nourishment, oxygen, etc. from there only. And this, both of this, that means the chorionic villi and the uterine tissue, they jointly form a flattened circular organ. Placenta in Latin refers to as a flat cake, C-A-K-E. So it appears like a flat cake, so that is why it's called as placenta. So a flattened circular organ will be formed by combination of the chorionic villi and the uterine tissue, and that acts as a functional unit between the developing embryo and the maternal blood. And because the chorionic villi are literally dipped in the maternal blood, and from there they are going to get their necessary requirements. So the maternal part of the placenta, called as decidua basalis, has a number of blood sinuses in which the blood vessels of the chorionic epithelium are immersed, and that is a part of the placenta next to the trophoblast, that is called as decidua basalis. Decidua because ultimately at the time of parturition the placenta will be eroded and will be also given out of the vagina at that time. That's why it's called as decidua, from the deciduous trees, like shedding off. And basalis is that part of the the placenta which is next to the trophoblast. And since it has number of blood sinuses, that is number of blood spaces in it, in which the blood vessels of the chorionic villi will be immersed. And since the fetal part of the placenta is in direct contact with the mother's blood, therefore it is called as hemochorial placenta. Hemo means blood, chorial means because there is the chorion, that is the chorionic villi, that is connecting the fetus to the embryo to the mother's uterine endometrium. That's why it's called. And since this chorionic villi are bathing or are present in the mother's blood, are in direct contact with the mother's blood, that is why it's called as hemochorial placenta. And the placenta is connected to the embryo through a cord-like structure which is called as the umbilical cord, and through this umbilical cord there will be transport of substances to and from the embryo, and this umbilical cord will contain arteries and veins through which oxygenated and deoxygenated blood will be passing into the from the mother's blood into the fetus. But here in this case, in the umbilical cord, you are going to have the arteries transport deoxygenated blood from the fetus, while the veins are going to carry oxygenated blood to the fetus. So now coming to this diagram where we are showing the fetus, where it is present, which cavity this is the amniotic cavity, which we said, which will be again taking up in gastrulation, that is developed between the trophoblast and the epiblast. So in this amniotic cavity, which is filled by the amniotic fluid, the fetus will be present. You must have heard of the water bag. This is what we are referring to, where the fetus is going to grow in an aquatic environment inside the womb of a pregnant female. And just now we said that the fetus or the embryo will be connected to the placenta by the umbilical cord. So this is the umbilical cord we were talking about. And this flat circular structure is called as the placenta. What is it made up of? So this is the umbilical cord, and these are the umbilical arteries and veins. These are the chorionic villi here, which we have shown here, chorionic villi, which is dipped in or bathing in or immersed in the maternal blood. So this is the pool of maternal blood that has been caused by breakdown of the spiral arteries. This is the endometrium, this is the muscle layer, the myometrium, and this whole thing, that means these are the chorionic villi, fetal part of the placenta. This is the mother's blood, the maternal part of the placenta. So the entire, this is the circular flat organ that we are referring to, the placenta, where the chorionic villi is in direct contact with the mother's blood. So all the nutrients will be passing here, will be going to the fetus through the umbilical cord, and gases, oxygen also here, from here will be transported from the mother's blood to the fetus. Waste or carbon dioxide from the fetus to the maternal blood to be for elimination. So this is, so you don't have to draw this structure basically of the placenta, you are not required to draw, but for the implantation you have to draw the figures for implantation. This is just for explanation part, so don't get bogged about this diagram, you have to draw it, no need. Just for the understanding part, I am showing you these figures related to placenta, just to get an idea how it is. Now coming to the next part of this, that is the functions of the placenta. This is important because generally it's asked about the functions of the placenta. First function will be nutrition. So nutrition such as minerals, amino acids, sugars, lipids, vitamins, etc., that is going to pass from the mother's blood into the fetal blood, through the placenta. Next function will be digestive organ. So the trophoblast of the placenta digests proteins before it's being passed to the fetal blood. And then next, third function will be respiration. Oxygen from the mother's blood will diffuse into the fetal blood, and carbon dioxide from the fetal blood will diffuse back into the mother's blood for elimination. Same for excretion also, whatever wastes are formed due to metabolic activities of the embryo is going to diffuse into the maternal blood. Now coming to the most important part, that is secretion of hormones. This you get as a 3 marks question, that's why it's being dealt in slightly more detail. So depending how the question is asked, if you ask about the functions of the placenta in general, you can reduce the content of this secretion of hormones. But if the question is like you have placenta acts as an endocrine tissue, justify. Then you have to write about, because it will be a 3 marks question, you have to write about most of the hormones that are listed here. So we said that placenta acts as an endocrine tissue and produces several hormones like number 1, which we have referred to before, human chorionic gonadotropin, short form you write it as HCG. Second hormone is human placental lactogen, short form you write as HPL. Then you know about progesterone, then estrogen, chorionic thyrotropin, chorionic corticotropin, and relaxin. HCG, HPL and relaxin are produced only during pregnancy. But during pregnancy, the levels of other hormones are also very high, like that of estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine. They are very high during pregnancy. Now coming to the first hormone listed in our here, that is HCG. HCG, just now we mentioned that it maintains the corpus luteum by binding to the receptors present on the LH receptors present on the corpus luteum, prevent it from degeneration, and is going to stimulate it to produce progesterone. So it's going to continue production of progesterone for first 3 months, and I said just now later the function will be taken by the placenta. Next will be HPL. HPL stimulates general growth and development and fetal metabolism, because it's going to secrete growth like insulin like growth factors. With that help of those factors, it's going to stimulate general growth of the fetus. It also stimulates the growth of the mammary glands during pregnancy. Next, that is the progesterone, that just now I said maintains pregnancy. It is going to maintain the growth of the endometrium, and it reduces contraction of the uterus, because we don't want any disturbance to the growing fetus, and therefore it's also called as the pregnancy hormone. Estrogen helps in the enlargement of the uterus to accommodate the fetus. It also going to increase the ducts of the mammary glands and relax the pelvic ligaments of the pelvic cavity. Next you have is chorionic thyrotropin. Thyrotropin, if you recall, like is a hormone that is also secreted from the pituitary gland, and thyrotropin, what is going to stimulate, but this is from the chorionic villi, what's going to stimulate will be mother's thyroid to secrete more thyroxine. And what is the function of thyroxine? Main function, maintenance of basal metabolic rate. So the basal metabolic rate will increase, there will be metabolism of more food for production of more energy. Next you have is chorionic corticotropin. Chorionic corticotropin will be secreted by the adrenal cortex to produce, that is chorionic corticotropin will stimulate the mother's adrenal cortex to produce more hormones. So if you could recall, adrenal cortex had three groups of hormones. One was mineralocorticoids, second was glucocorticoids, and third was sex corticoids. So all of these hormones are going to increase. So there will be increased levels of cortisol, there will be increased levels of mineralocorticoids, in which we said the main hormone there is aldosterone. And if you recall, what is the function of aldosterone? Aldosterone is going to act where? What is the target tissue? DCT of the nephron, and it's going to stimulate retention of sodium, that is uptake of sodium in DCT. And you know sodium has an osmotic effect. Since it has an osmotic effect, it is going to help in absorption of more body fluids. So what is the consequence of this? So in case of in pregnant female, you will find there is general edema. Edema, that means swelling, especially of the feet, lower limbs. Why? Because there is retention of more water, and retention due to retention of more sodium, and because of more body fluids. Generally a pregnant female has high BP, which is changes due to pregnancy, meaning immediately after parturition all the levels will come down normal, even her BP will also become normal. Then last hormone will be relaxin, that will help in easy parturition, that means that will help in the birth of the child by softening the connective tissue of the pubic symphysis. So these were all the functions related to the placenta, acting related to the hormones secreted by the placenta, and this is as a 3 marks question you can get. If you get general, what are the functions of placenta, then there is no need to give the functions of all the hormones. Now coming to the next function, that is the storage organ. That means the placenta stores glycogen, fats, etc. for the fetus till the liver is formed. It also acts as a barrier. That means placenta functions as a selective barrier by preventing pathogens and toxins from entering the fetus to some extent. But first 3 months of the trimester is very critical for the pregnant female, because during that time there are chances of infectious agents or drugs, or if she has alcohol or smoke affecting the fetus. So this was these agents that cause an abnormality in a fetus is called as teratogens, and it has been seen that the pregnant female has to take precautions in the first trimester, that is the first 3 months of her pregnancy, and protect herself from all these. I mean, she should not take any alcohol, no smoking, she should avoid taking drugs during that period as much as possible, and also so that it doesn't affect the fetus. Like in the early 60s, there was a drug that is called as thalidomide, and it was taken by the pregnant females who had to help them with their morning sickness. So that drug was taken by the pregnant females so that the morning sickness, the effect of nausea that they had in the first 3 months, it helped them to give them some relief from that morning sickness. But then what happened was that this drug had an effect on the fetus, so there were some babies that were born with fused hands or fused fingers, or shortened hand or shortened legs, abbreviated limbs, etc., like that. So that is why it acts as a selective barrier only to some extent. Now coming to the next function, that is immunity. So the antibody IgG from the mother's blood, Ig stands for the immunoglobulin. It passes through the placenta into the fetus, and obviously it provides protection. Also, when a child is born, the mother's antibodies that are present in the child after the birth of the child will help the child, provide it with protection, immunity against various agents till the child's own immunity is not being formed. So that was all about the functions of the placenta, which can be asked in your board exam. Thank you. Next topic will be gastrulation. That's all for today, and any doubts, any queries, you text me.